So I am Evon and I am from Malaysia, and currently I am a teacher in a kids learning center in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, and I am currently a PhD candidate. So today I will present this topic, bilingualism in early childhood and the effect to Chinese speaking children on learning English as the second language. And so this is the outline. So I will go through the introduction and then the research objective and questions and methodology, data collections and research finding. And finally, I will go through the conclusion and the implications of the research. So the brief introductions of the research. So the number of bilingual children has increased significantly due to the globalizations, and English is the most widely used language globally. So the perceptions of the younger, the better. So learning a new language at the young age enhances a child's cognitive and language development, as well as is likely to achieve the native-like competence. So this is why there are more and more ambitious parents to send their children to attend extra hours English language lessons after the school hours. So but however, the cultural and the social background as well as the native language, the L1 of a child plays a significant role on affecting their L2 learning. So just a brief introduction. So this research was done in the Malaysian context. So Malaysia is a multicultural society, and English language is a compulsory language subject to be learned in school, and it is a second language to most of the citizens in Malaysia. So although English language is learned and it is a compulsory subject to be learned in school, parents in Malaysia still enroll their children to extra classes, extra hours, lessons after the school or during the weekends in order to achieve the native like competence. So these are usually the goals of the parents in Malaysia. So the research objective is to examine or investigate the effects to native speaking, Chinese speaking children on learning English as the second language. So this research does not aim to contrast the idea of learning an L2 at young age, but rather it aims to examine the difficulties a young learner might encounter during the L2 learning process, despite the idea of the younger the better, or the younger the easier to learn a new language. So the research questions would be: what is the effect of phonological difference in Chinese language towards a child's second language learning, and also the effect of syntactic difference in Chinese language towards a child's second language learning. The significance problem would be, okay, Fromkins, Rotman, and Himes claim that to master and achieve native-like pronunciations of a second language, learners shall begin from their childhood. However, Maisel stated that native-like competence will only achieve if the second language is acquired during infancy, which is the simultaneous bilingual, where children learn two languages at the same time since infancy. So this paper aims to examine the influence of a child's native language in the second language learning, which is the English. So it focuses on the effects of phonological and syntactical differences of a child native language. So this is the differences. So yin and zhang. once quoted that Chinese speeches sounds like the tone clusters of piano, and the boundaries between syllables are quite obvious. And English speeches sound like the gliding tones of a violin, and the boundary between syllables are hard to be noticed. So unlike English, Chinese language is non-alphabetic language, and it uses local graphic system. And also it uses the pitch of its phonemes to distinguish the word's meaning. Okay, so these are the some of the differences. So first of all, the differences of the tongue positions in pronouncing of sounds between Chinese and English. As you can see that the sound j in English and the sound j, letter j in Mandarin Chinese are pronounced differently. So due to the differences of articulations in both languages, learners may mistakenly position the tongue. So that's where the accents happened. Right. So in English language, so the syllabus consists of the open syllabus and the closed syllable. So the open syllable consists of an onset and a rhyme, which is the vowel. So whereby the closed syllabus consists of a quota, one or more final consonants. So for example, we have the word he for the open syllables and the word pet as the closed syllables. However, in Chinese language, the sounds of words are generally made by the consonants and end with a vowel. For example, the word father is read as 爸爸, B-A-B-A in Chinese. So there is no consonant cluster or the consonant digraph in Chinese language. And also in English, there are 15 vowels, whereas in Chinese, there has only 5 vowels. So the Chinese learners may need to learn many new vowels in order to cope with the English pronunciations. And in Chinese, there is no long or short vowels. Hence, most Chinese learners do not distinguish the long or short vowels. Okay. And we will look into the syntactic differences. So the major differences of syntactical system between Chinese language and English can be understood by the following. So first of all, the singular and the plural rules, the tenses, the subject-verb agreement, the sentence structure, the articles before nouns, and pronouns such as the object pronouns him, her, or the reflexive pronouns himself, herself, and also the possessive pronouns his, hers, theirs, ours, mine, yours. So in Chinese, there is no difference pronouns in Chinese language. And Farooq Kobos and Chan stated that the grammatical rules of the Chinese language are applied to the second language during the language development stage of a sequential bilingual child. So this is where the meta-linguistic awareness comes in and play a role in affecting learners' L2 learning, because the familiarity of the syntactic and phonological rules of a child's L1, the native language, may affect the L2 learning. Okay, so this is the methodology. So the interesting case study and interview. So as for the sampling, so a 3-year-old native Chinese speaking preschooler. So she is a sequential bilingual child, and she has been learning English as her second language. So also experienced preschool teachers were interviewed, and also the semi-structured interview. So the selected teachers for the interview shall meet the following criteria. So their possess experience in teaching language as the second language, and also they are experienced in teaching English as the second language to young learners. And also they possess experience in early childhood education context for at least 1 year that allows them to be able to provide a decent understanding of how children learn a second language at the early stage. So as for the data collection, so a case study, preschooler native Chinese speakers studying or learning English in an international preschool, and the interview, and also the child was given a word list. So the word list contains mystic prompt sounds such as the consonant cluster and digraph. So as for the findings, so the effect of phonological difference. So due to the difference of the phonological system between Chinese and English language, so the following mistakes were made. So these are the consonant cluster sounds like br, bl, pl, pr. So the child tend to omit the R sound when she pronounced the word broom. So she pronounced it as boom. So as you can see, look at the graph here, and also the word pray, she pronounced it as pay. So there are sound omitted. Okay, so this is comments from the teachers during the interview. So teacher one, the sounds like thr and t, like three become tree, and also like the third sound and the t sound. They may substitute the third sound to f sound. For example, the pronounce of the word with, and they pronounce it as with. Okay. And also for teacher three, she comments that for native Chinese speaking children, the final sound t is always missing when they pronounce the words like cat, dot, and also like the sound p and d. Okay, this is due to the phonetic distinctions. Chinese learners tend to add a vowel after a stop consonant. For instance, like the word hot, they pronounce it as hot. So there are two syllables separated. Okay, so this would be the effect of the syntactic difference. So during the observations, these were the sentences that the child made. So first, my teacher is where. This is the direct translations from Chinese, as we can see here in the blue sentence, the blue words. So my teacher is where. So in Chinese is 我的, my, and teacher 老师 is 在 where 哪里. But in English language structure, we put where in front, so we can see that the differences and how it affect a child. And in the comment, we can also see that the teachers commented that the I, me, my, and mind, children feel difficult to differentiate them. So that's why during the observation, the child made a sentence, me want, and then she said, I want this. So there was the messed up, the mix in her sentence. So the conclusions, the result of the finding shows no noticeable effect of a child's native language towards a second language learning, so which is the syntactic system and the phonological system. And made those statements claiming that the prior knowledge of a learner's native language, such as the syntactic system, leads great effects towards their second language learning. And also Yin and Zhang claim that the consonant cluster is the high frequency mistake prone in the pronunciations for the native Chinese speakers. So children learning two languages might also have the difficulties with sounds that do not appear in the dominant language. Okay. As for the implications, so by understanding the effects of the different phonological and syntactic system, so the teachers could tackle the problems and provide efficient assistance or remedies for the young learners. And also it will mitigate the foreign language learning or the second language learning anxiety among children. Okay, so that's all for the presentation. So is there any questions? This is it is not the after school lessons. It's actually the preschool lesson. The observation was done in a school lesson. It's not after school lesson.
So just to follow up, because I teach a lot of young. Let me do my video so you're not talking to a bot. So
Hi.
okay, hello, nice to meet you.
Yes,
But
nice to meet you.
I'm very interested because I do teach a lot of like returnees and bilingual and
Yes.
international preschool graduates. So okay, so this was in the in the preschool.
Yes, yes.
Okay, so it's not an immersion program.
No.
So how about how much were they taught? I'm sorry, I missed that somehow.
It's 3 hours, I could say. Yeah,
3 hours
3 hours.
a
Yes,
week?
yes. No, per day.
3 hours per day, and they had this
Yes.
these like, huh? Because it was just very interested because I've had like a lot of students who are not they're not part of bilingual families, they're not traditional returnees, they're students who have been in immersion programs in Japan, and some of them are maybe a little bit more than 3 hours a day, yet those students usually don't have so many pronunciation problems. We do occasionally get students that young who do have a lot of like they might have like katakana pronunciation,
Okay.
which
Sorry.
katakana pronunciation is
Yes, yes, yes.
with like Japanese, yeah.
Yes, yes.
But that's very interesting. Mhm.
Yes, I think perhaps it could be one of the reasons could be the family background and the environment of the child growing, because she is from a Chinese, yeah, the native Chinese speaking family. Yes,
Mhm.
so yeah, so that's why there are mistakes like pronouncing the consonant cluster words. Yeah.
Mhm.
So the questions is the Go native level pronunciations. Yes. So this is the goal of the parents. Like they want their children to achieve native like, you know, pronunciations. So that's why besides the school hours lessons, they send children to extra hours lesson, after school lessons. Yeah. during the weekends. So it's, yeah, long hours studies for the children in Malaysia.
Mhm. William had a question.
Chinese student.
Yeah, sorry, I
have
didn't
to-
I didn't write that very well in the chat.
yeah.
Just no, your slides on the pronunciation were very interesting. I was surprised by how similar the should we say the problems are, the difficulties, the gaps
Yes.
between Chinese Chinese language
Japanese.
in English and Japanese in English. Very similar problems.
Yes. Yes.
Consonant clusters,
Yes.
no coda.
Yep.
I guess being the main two that come off the top of my head, and then that, and I thought your quote about the difference between Chinese syllables versus English syllables was beautiful, because I mean the music metaphor is fantastic. I love it.
Yes.
The violin versus the piano.
Yes. Yes.
And I'm definitely going to use that with my students here in Japan, because I think that's that the schwa for us in English, the schwa,
Yes.
whether
Yes.
you're,
Yes.
the stress is on the stress, I guess, is going to be on the down, isn't it? The down
Yes.
and the up,
Yes.
the down. So yeah,
Yes. Yes.
brilliant metaphor, yeah. And that really intrigued me, actually. So I guess the main difference with what happens in, say, should we say Malaysia versus what happens here in Japan, I think generally the children here in Japan have very, very little exposure to English. Very little exposure to English,
Okay.
unless it is
There are
like
quite a lot.
programmed into to like some sort of special program. Otherwise, they'll just get no exposure. There's no English on TV, and they don't get their ears exposed to it anywhere else. So, whereas in Malaysia, you guys are doing your best to get as exposed to it as early as possible, right?
Yes, but one thing is the children are exposed a lot in the classroom context. So yeah, so casually they have the anxiety to speak, when during the casual conversation. Yes, so that's the problem in Malaysia, I could say. Yes, so they're so used to the classroom context. Yeah.
Right, I see. That's a context constraint
Yes.
that makes
Yes.
them.
Yes.
I see that.
Yes.
Yeah. So they're always pressured to perform. I mean, school
Yes.
makes them perform.
Yes.
So they have.
Yes.
Yeah, I guess
And
the
then,
students have that.
and also the parents, to push them.
Sure. Sure.
Yeah.
But if it was me, I would push back on the parents, saying, lead by example.
Yes.
Ta-da.
Yeah.
So, um,
And then children tend to um they don't really voice up when they have problems. Yeah, because young children. Yeah.
so that's similar to here as well.
Yes.
Okay, that was really interesting. So so
Thank
we've
you.
got another question there about Mandarin versus other, I guess, Chinese languages. So I have a similar question, which is how broad. So the things you said about pronunciation, does that apply
Yes.
to all of, let's just say, all of China as well, and Hong Kong, and uh, that anyone who deals with Mandarin, with the written form of with that Mandarin
Yes,
Mandarin.
there are differences. Like, for example, we take Mandarin and Cantonese.
Okay.
The intonation is different, because for Mandarin, there are usually four tones, 4 sounds, but
Yep.
for Cantonese, what under there are 9, intonation. Yeah. So,
That's
yep.
great. So they have 4, but they still have the same syllable structure, and
Yes,
they don't
more
have
or less
consonant
the
clusters.
same.
So they still have the same issues in terms of learning,
Yes,
do
yes,
they?
yes, yes.
Uh-huh. Okay. Wow. Fascinating. That's great. Would it be possible to get a copy of your slides?
Yes, yes, sure.
Can you share that with us? Can we
Okay. So,
do you have a
do I share it here?
you could share it there,
Yes.
or if